Good morning. Today's video, I wanted to talk to you about protecting your creative energy. I think this is something that is really important for people if you're trying to live a creative life, because you have so many things that come into your life that really can take away from your creative energy. It can be people, the environments that you're working in, the networks that you're surrounding yourself with, or just even your daily habits and routines. And it's something that's very precious. It's something that is important for you to consider as a big part of, becoming successful as a creative entrepreneur or a creative person, or even just celebrating those qualities in that time in your life. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that I do, and I can tell you as a working artist and a designer that I'm constantly faced with a challenge with this, and I have throughout the entire process of my career. Early on, I would say when you're first starting out on an endeavor like this, you're probably at the biggest risk because you usually have people that around you that are like, oh, well, that's cool that you're interested in doing that, but it's not really practical. There's nothing practical about any of the things that I have attempted to do in my life. I'm kind of one of those people that's like the cart before the horse and then figure it out. If my mom is watching this, she's totally gonna laugh about that. But it's, when you start out, you often, it's like you have this excitement and this enthusiasm, but you don't quite have the confidence yet that, am I qualified to be doing this? And I will say that most artists I know are constantly dealing with that. Like, you might follow an artist on Instagram or on YouTube, or just know an artist, maybe you've taken a class with them, or a creative entrepreneur, and they look like wildly successful. And I bet you every single one of them has constantly dealt with this sense of, am I good enough? Am I going to continue being good enough? It's like you're constantly dealing with this inner voice, this inner battle when it comes to that stuff. So don't think that people who you've thought have made it to where, the light at the end of the tunnel, don't think that they are not going through the same thing. So I would say the biggest thing that you really have to focus on is the voice that's in your own head. And I deal with this voice all the time. I have to tell it to be quiet all the time. It's a voice that tells you, are you sure you should be doing this? Or, maybe you're not good enough, or, it's just constantly asking you questions that take you more to a negative place. And it's very easy to listen to those voices and that, that part of yourself that isn't so sure of how successful you might be at something. So what I do is I will listen to whatever it is for a brief moment, and then I'll say, okay, it's time for you to be quiet, and I will just ignore it. I'm very stubborn in that way. One of the best qualities in my stubbornness is that when people or my voice says that I can't do something, then I usually charge forward and I go do it just to prove that I can do it. So, but you may not have that kind of personality. You might let the fear and anxiety of those things get in the way. So again, the first thing that you have to do is you have to find a way to conquer that voice inside of your head, because if you are passionate about something and you want to do something, then the only thing that keeps you from getting there is the actions you take to get there and overcoming the things around you that might be getting in your way. You have to kind of navigate around them. It doesn't mean they're going to move out of your way, because in life, most of those roadblocks, they just kind of stay there with flashing signs that say, you can't get past me. And then you have to be smarter than the signs. You got to go around them. So the second thing is surrounding yourself with people who are either following their vision, following their dreams, they're attempting to do things that are out of their comfort zones. So they themselves are kind of going through the same thing, because if you can relate to those people and you see that they're also trying and you see their successes and failures, that can be really helpful too. And then also being around people who are just kind of like-minded. They're sort of chasing the same kind of visions. Being around entrepreneurs is like the best thing ever, because They're constantly up against risk, and they're trying to do all kinds of things that most people are like, why are you doing that? So if you can surround yourself with people like that, it can really help you when you kind of get into those spots where your creative energy is at risk of being damaged or, negatively affected. So that's another good way to get involved in it. And the other thing is to get any kind of negative people out of your space as much as possible. So there are going to be people that are naysayers in your life. I have had a ton of naysayers in my life, ones that have been my friends, a former spouse. I've had all kinds of people in my life that didn't really necessarily support what I was doing and thought that I was wasting my time, or that I was trying to make a career out of something that should have just been a hobby. And to me, it's a way of life. So to not live that way is an injustice to myself. And I think that when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you keep pushing forward with it, all of those voices that are around you that are not supportive, they kind of become like background noise, and you learn to go, well, they don't really know what they're talking about, because I truly feel that this is the path that I'm supposed to be on, even if sometimes it totally sucks. So getting those negative people out of your life and standing up to them. Sometimes you just need to say, it may not be for you, but this is something that I'm very passionate about, and this is what I want to do. The other thing is, when you're trying to protect that creative energy, so as I mentioned, I tend to do like the whole lifestyle of the cart before the horse. It's honestly, it's probably a really terrible way to live. But sometimes you have to leap before you think too much about things, or else you'll think yourself out of it. However, when I have done that, it is something that allowed me to be open to different possibilities, and like I mentioned, it's about not letting those roadblocks get in the way. You have to get around them. The thing is, though, that when you're trying to pursue a creative life, in most cases, you can't just, jump completely blindly and let go of everything else that's happening around you. Those things that kind of weigh you down sometimes have to be the things in your toolbox that you take along with you, and you have to learn how to use them in the right way. So for instance, when I first started out, I worked in the medical field, and I knew that I had to have a base that provided me the security so that I could pursue the things that I wanted to pursue. And then slowly I began to transfer most of my energy over into my creative pursuits. And I still, to this day, I teach a medical class at a college in North Carolina, and I still kind of have that little support system that's there, that part of my old life that's there. And I have it there kind of as a protective security for myself, because let's face it, when you're in a creative career, sometimes it's like awesome, and you're like, I can't believe I'm getting all this work. And then other times you're like, oh my gosh, am I ever going to get another project in my life? So it's good to have a little bit of that security. So one of the ways that you can protect your creative energy is to make sure that you have things put in place so that you're able to invest time into the things that you want to do without putting yourself at too much risk in the beginning. There will be times where you have to just jump into risk, and you have to work as hard as you can and hope it's going to work out for you. And those are scary times. But if you have a network of people around you and you make that voice in your head just go away, and acknowledge it, but let it go away, and you keep pushing forward, then eventually you will be able to move into this realm of living the creative life that you want to live. And it's good to keep those past connections. Interestingly enough, some of those past connections that I had that weren't even tied to the field that I'm in have really led into things that created opportunities and projects for me that I may not have gotten if I wasn't still connected to those things. So I want you to think about this morning or throughout the week, how can you protect the creative energy in your life, whether you're a creative entrepreneur or whatever it is that you do. And think about those things that, like, do an inventory of what are the things that get in the way of you reaching your fullest potential And how can you navigate around them? Because again, you may not be able to get rid of them completely. So I hope this will inspire you, and hopefully it will help you kind of push forward and look for those really positive things in your life that can make you live your fullest potential and protect that creative energy that is so precious. And it really makes life extremely meaningful if you're able to hold on to it and make it a meaningful part of your life. So I hope you guys have a great day.